welcome back to another episode of Hoot and Poop. So I will continue my learning series. So in today's video, I will be talking to you about this concept called the greater fool theory. Okay, so basically, what does the greater fool theory means? Okay, in a very, very simple layman explanation, all right, the greater fool theory, it's basically, it means to say that the person that keeps buying the shares, okay, and if they disregard the valuation, okay, they just keep buying and expect another person will buy it higher from them, and then this forms the greater fool theory. Okay, most of the time it always happens, right? Or rather, it's very, very obvious when we are buying them at a very, very overvalued priced, where we disregard the intrinsic value in hope that we can sell it at a higher price. So let me just use this illustration to see. So for example, person one bought it here, where actually perhaps the intrinsic value is around here. So person A bought here, and then he hoped that there will be another fool to buy over from him, and then another fool bought over from him at here. And then when this person B who bought over it, he hoped that there will be another fool that buy over from him here, and go and so on and so forth. So basically, at every time a person buy higher and higher, where they disregard the intrinsic value of it, okay, resulting in a super overvalued asset. Okay, so this forms the greater fool theory. Now, the key behind this thing is that you never know when the market will plunge. And every time, when we purchase anything where it's overvalued, or when there's no intrinsic value to talk about, right? We always say that the price will always go higher and stuff. And most of the time you will think that I won't be that unlucky one to result in the plunge. But the problem is that we do not have any crystal ball to even understand whether are we the greatest fool out of this whole thing. So what I'm trying to drive at is that do not be the greatest fool in this whole episode. So this theory can apply to any other things where there's an intrinsic value. For example, stocks, that's the best way you can, because you have an intrinsic value to it. How do you derive from the intrinsic value? Look at the fundamentals of the business to see if the business is making a revenue, making profit, if the business earnings are growing. So of course, loss-making businesses are really very popular nowadays. It's fine. I also invest in loss-making businesses, but the key behind it is that the fundamentals, the future growth, the revenue growth must be able to convince you to take the steps, which I have also explained in my earlier video. When the company is at an earlier stage, where stage 1 or stage 2, you can't, when there's no earnings, you can probably perhaps use like revenue or what to look at it. So this is what I mean as, whatever price you pay for the asset, be it stocks or what, you must know what's the intrinsic value and never be that greater fool. Now, for crypto, for NFTs, I'm not that well versed in it, but if you understand the fundamentals of NFT, if you understand the fundamentals of crypto, you will roughly have an idea on what's the intrinsic value on it. It could simply just also be based on the demand supply, based on institutions coming in, large enterprise coming in, pumping up the price. It can also be, but you must know that what's the intrinsic value, what's the growth behind it, and you must never be the greatest fool to catch the last bit of it. And when the share price plunged, it's very hard for it to recover. Okay, and the last concept I want to tell you guys is that never marry your stocks, your crypto, or your NFT, or whatsoever, or your assets. Now, this part here, all right, is more of like, first, understand what you are, who you are as an investor. Your aim is to make profit out of it. If that's your aim, then it doesn't matter if you buy any other companies. It doesn't matter if you buy Tesla. It doesn't matter if you buy, for example, Arcade or Clearpoint New, whatsoever. what matters most is that whatever companies you buy, if the fundamentals are good, if the business is growing, right, over time, the share price will catch up with the value of the business, okay? And when that happens, right, good, because you're holding on to that. But once the fundamental changed, for example, what if one day Tesla changes their fundamentals and just give up on EV? Then this is the time where you have to rethink your investing thesis, whether or not if this marriage, or rather not this marriage, this purchase of the stock is something that you want to continue holding, or you should decide to give up, say goodbye to it. So never fall in love with your stock. Never marry your stock. Never marry your asset. You can date them long enough to know them well, which is why I always emphasize on understanding their fundamentals, but never marry them, because once they change, once the fundamental change, you must be quick to decide whether or not to hold on to the stock or to dispose the stock. And this is why it is very important for you to understand. Do not put in emotional attachment, because emotional attachment will blind your vision, will blind your goal. I made a mistake. I had the same issues with emotions in my stocks. So that's how I have learned from it, and I want to share with you guys. Okay, so I hope throughout my sharing you understand a little bit better about this whole mindset thing, and I really appreciate a like and subscribe to my channel. All right, and do comments below if there's anything you want me to cover about. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Invest safe.